Honorable Delroy Chuck. His project is for the northeastern Grand Spen Avenue zinc fence removal and block wall construction. The budget is for $3,188,989.65, and it is being administered through the KCMC. Okay, all is in order. BQ is attached from the KSMC. Next project is again from St. Andrew Northeast, Honorable Delroy Chuck. It is for Oddman Lane muralization being executed through the KSMC to the tune of $1,916,460. Once again, BQ is appropriately attached. Director, I'm not recognizing the signature on the BQ. It would be good if they also, the KCMC stamps the BQ coming from their institution. Next is Robert Montague, Member of Parliament for St. Mary Western. His physical infrastructure project is for solar power to the tune of $2,244,028.32. It is being executed through the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. Director, it would be wonderful to give us a little further guidance as it relates to a lot of these solar projects which are going to be coming on stream. Particularly a lot of rural constituencies are in darkness, farm road areas in darkness, and as an interim until rural electrification reaches everyone, it would be good to give us some more guidance so that members of parliament can introduce to their constituents solar power, street lights for the purpose of their communities as one of the infrastructure developments that is available to them. Yes, Director.
Thanks, Chair. I will provide further guidance at our next meeting solely because we're looking at partnerships, and I want to ensure I have those meetings first so that members of parliament are aware of which entity to use and the standards for solar panels. Just as though we have standards for roads, we should have standards for solar systems. And I'm currently engaging with other stakeholders as it relates to where can the CDF partner, or which entity can the CDF partner with to ensure that the solar panels are done in compliance and there's a certain standard that can be shared with us.
Thanks, Director. Looking forward. We have another infrastructure project here from a Member of Parliament, Donovan Williams, for Kingston Central. It is for Kingston Central Stormwater Channel Rehab and Road Overlay to the tune of $1,006,792.50. It's being administered through the KCMC, I note, Director, that the KCMC signing, the signature is the same, but they are not stamping. Yes, so we will still go ahead, and I'm asking. We have to ask the KCMC to have someone come down, Director. These projects are so critical, I wouldn't want to turn the projects back so we can round robin. Oh, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So members weren't hearing you because you hadn't turned on your mic. So
Right.
The director is indicating the projects have been read out in the meeting and are therefore minuted for approval. However, prior to us signing, she is adamant in following the proper procedures and having KCMC stamp the bill of quantities that they have submitted for the approval. She will ensure that members of parliament are not therefore disenfranchised, but the rules are followed. So we will round robin for signature afterwards. I've reviewed the documents and I've signed off as chair, so round robin of any of the members here present, at least two more, will have those approvals going out. I'm going to just take a look at the last one from KCMC here. All right, so this one is properly done. Same signature too, I must tell you, but this one is stamped. So the person who prepared this document is the same person who signed those, but I noticed the stamp and a different signature for the city engineer. This one is from Member of Parliament Dwayne Smith for St. Andrew Northwest. His is St. Andrew Northwest Mosquito Valley zinc fence removal and block wall construction project, budgeted for $1,844,647.88. Thank you. And the implementing agency, the KCMC, perfectly executed. Honorable Franklin Witter for St. Elizabeth Southeast. I think this is an error too. Simple correction. St. Thomas patching. I'll correct this to St. Elizabeth. It's Thomas Road, so it's probably Thomas Road in St. Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. Yes, Thomas Road. All righty. This budget is $1,022,900. It is being executed by the St. Elizabeth Parish Council for the Member of Parliament. Another one from St. Elizabeth Southeast for Honorable Frank Witter, Todd Town Road patching to the tune of $1,041,500. It is also being executed by the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation. Michael Phillips, Member of Parliament for Manchester Northwest, has requested approval for Top Lincoln Mount Prospect Road maintenance. This is being executed through the NWA. So this road patching is budgeted at $2,032,800. Again, St. Elizabeth Southeast, Port C Road patching for Member of Parliament Honorable Frank Witter in the amount of $1,592,800. He is utilizing the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation to execute this project. Again, for Honorable Frank Whittle, St. Elizabeth Southeast, Delightful Road patching in the amount of $1,090,500 being executed through the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation. The maximum amount for infrastructure development is what, 10 million of the 20? I do know the director and the team at the CDF office would have accumulated these projects. So once again, for Honorable Frank Whittle, we have two more. Balbeck Road patching for the amount of $1,096,000 from the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation, and then $1,672,100 for the Lilith's First Street Road patching, both through the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation. So, Director, just confirming, could you be so kind as to just double check the addition, because quite a few road patching projects from Member of Parliament Honorable Franklin Whittle, to ensure that he has not exceeded the cap, the maximum of $10 million. Member Robinson?
I was just seeking clarification on what you said. I didn't know that you could spend up to 10 on infrastructure. I thought that was reserved for education only. No?
So it's a little complex. So for seasonal employment that we do in Christmas, which is considered physical infrastructure, there is a maximum on that type of physical infrastructure, which would be no more than 3.5. But the manual, the operational manual, say for any one project, you can spend, project type, you can spend up to 50% of the fund. It's very explicit. So you can take 10 million for education, you can take 10 million for infrastructure, and then there are other limits in the manual as you go along. So it is very important that we look at the project limits, because sports have a limit, I think it's 2 million. Welfare and economic enablement have a limit also, but disaster has a limit. But for any one project type, it is 50% of the fund.
For welfare, emergency, economic enablement, those project types have a limit that does not allow 50% spend. That is basically what the director is reminding us of. So the CDF office would have sent out for us the manual of approved limits, lower limit and upper limit for each category. We would just need to go back to it. Director, I must tell you, there are 1 or 2 members of Parliament who have gone out to ask companies for bun and cheese to be taken from their Constituency Development Fund, and I'm going to generalize, claiming that they can purchase it from the CDF fund. Having reminded them recently that it is not allowed to purchase bun and cheese, then the statement made to some of these suppliers is that the CDF has changed its policy. Members of Parliament, do not go out there and take things on your CDF budget, knowing full well that they're not allowed and not approved. So the CDF is for development projects. That is the aim. And so bun and cheese or cake for Teachers' Day and Sports Day is not a development option. And we should not go out there and engage anyone and then throw the problem at the feet of CDF having changed the policy, because it is not so. It's just a gentle reminder. Director?
Just want to reiterate the point that that cannot be the case, because from before 2021, I've written to all members of parliament. We're now in 2025, and I will take an excerpt from the letter, which I pulled from my phone. Consequent on the above, except for authorized expenditure for Labor Day activities and short-term employment during the Christmas season, CDF funds should not be used to underwrite seasonal expenses such as Teachers' Day and Easter, and in bracket we have bun and cheese purchase and distribution. The letter is more worded than that, but that is an excerpt, and this goes all the way back to 2021.
Some persons have tried. Most members of parliament are not guilty. Member Williams, most members of parliament are not. Many understand. But why I found it egregious is a company wrote to me as chair for a member of parliament who asked before, and I told them that the CDF office does not allow purchase of bun and cheese from the CDF funds. You would have to raise those monies privately. That particular member of parliament still went ahead and got the supplies, and then said the CDF changed its policy. Once again, I informed the company that is not true. The policy was long established, and everyone, yes, and communicated, and everyone is aware. The other thing I'm picking up, Director, that we should check on is we are going into an election. And as government, we have a duty, and when I say as government, I mean all of us from the opposition side as well as those sitting on the majority side. We cannot forward spend the CDF that is not yet approved for spend. Any supplier who goes ahead and gives us supplies with the understanding that we're getting credit, they are at risk. You do not know if you would be returned as a member of parliament, and you cannot compel your successor, God forbid it's not you, to honor those bills. We have significant integrity seated in this house, and we need to apply it in how we engage suppliers. I have seen it before where suppliers are begging the CDF to clear a balance because a member of parliament did not make it back in 2020. And we should ensure it doesn't happen because it reflects on all of us as members of parliament. Please appreciate that there are suppliers out there who pay attention to our committee meetings. So some of them have contacted me as chair, and I've said to them, I do not get involved in individual constituency matters. If you have a concern, write to the CDF office, the unit, to the director, because there are suppliers who have supplied school supplies to that were to be paid for from last year's budget that still remains outstanding even now, which means those individuals are waiting on this year's budget to clear last year's bill. And we should not allow those things to happen. So, see how much ad-lib?
You're so much that you have been saying, but I want to respond to the Frank Whittle request that you have. I verified with my office just now. He is below 10 million for his infrastructural work. And a point to note is that you should only spend on approved projects. I won't get involved with that, Chair. I will only caution the committee members and members of parliament that you only spend from approved projects.
To the tune of the amount approved. So you cannot spend in excess of what is approved for spend. It therefore means you are crediting unapproved amounts.
To understand, just for clarification. So approved amounts. Let's say, for example, your housing assistance is approved for $3 million, and for $3 million, and that has been through this committee and approved. The current member of parliament, you're saying, if he credits, he can credit up to that $3 million. That's what you're saying.
Not a two different arguments.
I'm trying to understand if it is, because you're just saying, no, what happened, Madam Chair, you just said that there are some MPs who have some outstanding, who they went ahead and they credited, and they are not certain if they will be re-elected, and so they cannot tie the new MP to whatever debts that is outstanding.
All right, so in response to your question...
No, what I'm trying to ascertain, is it that they credited within their approved amount, or is it that they credited in excess of their approved amount? That's what I'm trying to clarify.
All right, so let me answer you this way to ensure that there is full clarity and understanding. So remember, your approval doesn't necessarily stipulate who the supplier is. So start from there. So someone spending within the limit has to ensure that the agency that you submitted your documents indicating they were the implementing agency is seized of a pro forma invoice from that particular supplier. So you're matching my approved amount to the supplier to be paid. Because you may have Kingston XYZ as the supplier you took the building materials from, and you do not have a pro forma invoice submitted from Kingston XYZ for payment through the SDC. But you just went and you said, okay, I have $3 million approved, so I'm going to just credit $3 million, and at some point I will forward the pro forma invoice to have them paid. The idea is really to try to operate in a way that your documents are properly submitted to the implementing agency for the supplier in question within the limit approved. The people who do so are in excess. So we are speaking to those persons, but your question raised another concern, and that is one of ensuring that the supplier is the supplier you have submitted the pro forma invoices for, so that that supplier is who gets the payment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question, I was on that presumption that you would have got the pro forma from that specific supplier. So my question presumes that, so you couldn't have had it from a different supplier, that you would have had it from that supplier. So it's clearer now, my lady.
But Chairman and members, I think there is a bigger issue that we need to clarify. CDF does not credit. So regardless of if it is within your spend, outside your spend, before if it is an approved project that is funded by the CDF office, you take up from the approved amount disbursed. We do not credit, and I hope this gets out there, because actually you do have members of parliament crediting. It is not associated with this fund, and it should be stated that the CDF does not do credit. We don't do credit.
The director made a statement that I know would just slide under the radar for many of us. The director said disbursed. Now that is a critical statement for us to appreciate. So there are members of parliament who know this is the limit. They know that is what they would like to spend. So let me give Member Williams as an example. Member Williams wants to spend his full $3 million on housing solutions, but Member Williams only has disbursed by the CDF office 1.5 of your $3 million so far. It means you are only allowed to spend 1.5. though you have submitted a project for 3 million or projects totaling 3 million, if the amount dispersed, which comes from Ministry of Finance to the CDF office and ultimately on your spreadsheet to you is only 1.5, you're limited to only 1.5 spend. You can't say my plan was 3 and my limit is 3 and I'm therefore going to take $3 million in supplies. Member Davis?
I was saying, Madam Speaker, is that, Chair, is that you operate on a budget. So you must have a running balance. So if you know you commit $3 million for housing assistance, every time you request, you do a deduction. So you know what is left for you. So there's, and this thing about credit, I mean, I don't send none of my recipients to any hardware store. The check must reach them before or reach the account of the hardware supplier. It can't go any other way. So I don't know.
Member Davis, you're correct. Yeah, and these issues being pointed out are not common to many members of Parliament. It is few who play with the rules, very few. Member Crawford.
Madam Chair, what I'd want to know, so we're in an election year, so we know that the election can be announced at any time. What happens immediately when the election is announced? Does the CDF seize the funds? We can't use the resources during that period?
So if I may answer that question as a director. As of nomination day, when you're nominated a candidate, then a letter is issued to all implementing agency to cease payment. So if your payments are not in before nomination day, then nothing can happen after that. Not when... I can verify that, but it is normally, it's either when Parliament prorogue or nomination day. But let me double check that for you. I'll come back with a response. But we issue that
it
letter to...
would be nomination day, Director. Why? The elections are usually called at different times. Parliament have set times that it would normally prorogue. In this case, we would go off on the summer break in August. So Parliament, we should expect to be at Parliament for most of July. And as is customary, August would be the summer break for the Parliament. We don't know when an election will be called. It could be before August. It could be September. However, the statement by the director is absolute. I remember in the 2020 election, I had quite a bit of book vouchers because we had gotten them before, and I insisted on not distributing one. I made up my mind as a point of individual integrity in distribution to say to constituency, yes, we have vouchers, however, these will be distributed after election. God forbid I was not the person to win, I'd pass it to the individual who comes after me. I do not think it is a good idea for us, especially not members even sitting in this meeting. I find some of our colleagues don't pay attention to the CDF meeting if they are not seated on the committee. And persons have resources that they take a long time to spend. So many times the director would have ATI requests. So many times I have had to be looking to say, okay, director, are we in a bad position in terms of individual members of Parliament who have not spent? So as chair, I don't approach the individuals. I am also a member of Parliament, and so I operate as just a member of Parliament concerned with my constituency. The director has to now take the position of being the police for members who are not spending their resources at the pace to ensure that their constituents benefit in a fulsome way. And so we are literally pointing these things out because anything we issue to any individual, whether cash or kind, as of nomination day through to election day, is a breach. We are not allowed to do so. So we're really just reminding and encouraging members of Parliament. We're at the end of June now. We may or may not have one more meeting before Parliament goes on recess. And therefore, I'm asking you to remind your colleagues to review with their CDF officer the listing of approved amounts, the amounts disbursed in the event they would like to treat as a priority education over road infrastructure. Have that discussion with your CDF officer to say that my constituents are more interested in this period in their education assistance. Member Robinson normally does something in terms of a summer program which has engagement with youth population, exposure to technology, something like that. He would have established it as a priority in his seat. He would say, okay, even though I've asked to build a drain, I want to maintain what is my priority over the years, which is the youth program. So he would now sit with the CDF officer assigned to him and say, okay, I can see these are my approval, these are my disbursements. However, I'm asking the CDF office in terms of the actual funding, which is the disbursement, to give me as a priority this program for the summer over and above even my Christmas program or my program of XYZ. That is the idea. So encourage our colleagues to think the same, that we need to be efficient and we need to do the best and the most we can for our various constituents. Member Davis, then Member Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Example, we approve a project. The money is sent to the agency from CDF. The project has commenced with contractors signing a contract to execute. The election is announced. How do you treat with that situation?
That is out of our hands, Member Davis. Once a project starts, the contract is in place.
Okay.
The contractor may be dragging or not dragging.
Okay.
That's out of our hands.
Right.
Once we had our stuff approved and it is being executed, that is basically fait accompli for us. And that is why we remind MPs that once a contractor has been selected by the government in terms of its own procurement arrangements, and there are monies due to the contractor, anything going on with the contractor, that's not our business. Our duty is to submit the project, submit with the proper documentation, have the approvals done, and probably the furthest is to say to the contractor who is approved, look here, you know, I had sent in a project, you may have other things doing, but this is a priority to me, get on with the work of my constituents. And it finishes there. Everything to do with their payments and all of that afterwards is between them and the government agency, not us and the government agency. All right? Member Robinson?
I'm just thinking of a scenario. So, and me personally, I mean, all my projects are in and approved. But let's think of educational assistance. So you get the approval, the money is sent to SDC. People start to come to you now for back to school. So you start to collect the vouchers. You don't send them in piecemeal. You kind of get a batch before you send them in. Election is called, and there are people who go into UE, UTEC, elsewhere. The money is at SDC. Nomination day comes. Is it that SDC doesn't continue to honor those obligations?
They cannot.
Thank you.
They cannot honor those obligations.
Cannot.
Remember, you know, God forbid you do not win your seat. So you have to think from that purpose.
Get the assistance?
No, so hold on. It's not already in.
No. What I mean is, so I'm collecting the vouchers.
Let's go. Hold on. Let's break it apart, Member Robinson.
Yeah.
You are collecting vouchers.
I send them in.
No, hold on. An election is announced. Right. An election is announced. Yeah. We're not at nomination day yet.
Right.
it behoves you to immediately submit all of what you
Right.
collected to the SDC.
Yes.
Those would be honored.
That's what I meant. That's what I said. That's what I said.
Right.
You know.
Those would be honored.
That's what I said, yes.
Right.
Yes.
However, if you had them all collected,
No.
but you didn't get to send
No,
them
that's
in yet,
different.
beautiful.
No, I'm
So-
saying I submitted to SDC, but SDC hasn't paid out all of them as yet.
That would be honored.
Oh, okay.
That
all
would be
right.
honored because it is submitted. So what I would encourage all of us to do, ensure you write that letter to SDC, make sure it's dated before or at the moment an election is announced, before nomination day. Do not sit with them. And Member Robinson, excellent question. It may mean that this time when we're collecting batches, that at the end of each week we batch it and send it up, so that it doesn't appear as if we are literally collating to submit for an election. And we need to sensitize our constituents of this, because some people like to wait until September morning. They come down to the office begging us for help with back to school tuition payments. They wait till the very last minute. So we may need to start to sensitize.
And in your sensitization, members of parliament, please ensure that the documents submitted are compliant and the supporting document is attached to your request. Do not send a letter and then you provide the supporting documents after, because we're in an election year. I still believe those payments should not be honored with just a mere request without the supporting documents.
You would definitely have to have the supporting documents, because members of parliament, a letter submitted to any of the implementing agencies without the supporting documents is not a submission. It is not, because it has not met the requirement. All right? So let me finish the infrastructure projects. We have two here from the Member of Parliament, Honorable Darrell Vass for Portland Western. One is for the Diamond Ridge Entrance Road in the amount of $1,999,930.80 through the NWA. And it is the exact same amount for the Banacol Road Rehabilitation Project, also being implemented through the NWA. So the Banacol Road is Windsor Castle, Diamond Ridge is the entrance. Wow. So it's very efficient. All right, members, get on with it. Sports. Honorable Xavier Main for St. and Southwest, $1 million is being requested to be spent through the SDC for his St. and Southwest Sports and Entertainment projects. Hugh Graham, $1.1 million for St. Catherine Northwest Sports Development for 2025-2026 through the SDC. Member of Parliament Robert Montague for St. Mary Western, $2 million for sports development. It's Crystal Lee for St. Anne Northwest, $1.1 million, also through the SDC. For Montague, it's through the SDC as well. Right. So all sports projects would have to be either through the SDC or through the SDF, which is the Sports Development Foundation. So Crystal Lee, 1.1 million, you have that. And last but not least is Carlson Muda for St. Andrew North Central, $1 million for North Central St. Andrew Sports Development Project for 2025-2026. Welfare projects. There's one missing signature here for Prime Minister. All the others are in. So for our welfare program, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, St. Andrew West Central, $2 million for welfare spend. And that is being implemented through the SDC. For Delroy Chuck, Honorable Delroy Chuck, Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast, $1 million for welfare spend through the SDC. For Hugh Graham, $2 million for welfare and emergency through the SDC. He's a Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Northwest. Dr. Morris Guy, Member of Parliament for St. Mary Central, $1 million being spent through the SDC. Robert Montague, $2 million being spent through the SDC for his emergency and welfare support. Last but not least, Member of Parliament Philip Paulwell for Kingston Eastern Port Royal, $1 million through the SDC. Next set of projects are, again, project type human and social development. These are housing projects. So someone asked, how is it that these housing projects through the SDC are also considered to be social housing? They are. Building materials through the SDC, through the CDF, are actually also utilized to improve the housing stock and are a part of our social housing program. So first up is the Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness for St. Andrew West Central, $2 million is being requested for approval for social housing to be executed through the SDC. Mr. Philip Paulwell for Kingston East and Port Royal, $1 million being implemented through the SDC. Honorable Delroy Chuck, $1 million being implemented through the KSAMC. Hugh Graham, St. Catherine Northwest, $1 million through the SDC for his social housing program. Dr. Morris Guy, $1 million for St. Mary Central being implemented through the SDC. And last but not least, for Trelawney South, Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, $1 million for additional social housing being implemented through the SDC. This is for employment generation. This is a Christmas program. One project here from Mr. Luthon Cousins for Clarendon Southwest for the maximum of 3.5. Clarendon Municipal Corporation is the implementing agency. He's very confident of being back. admin assistant for Honorable Floyd Green, St. Elizabeth Southwest, maximum amount $1.5 million being implemented through the SDC. That is economic enablement. Mr. Hugh Graham, St. Catherine Northwest, $2 million through the SDC. Honorable Frank Whittle, agriculture program. This is again economic enablement. It's being implemented through RADA, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, to the tune of $3 million. I'm looking at it. So it's here as economic enablement, agriculture. That's why I'm going through. It can be, because it can be economic enablement, not for for business support for farmers, in which case it would have to go through RADA, which is what is happening most recently, Director. Projects that would normally be accepted by SDC, once it has an agriculture component, they're being forwarded instead to RADA for approval. And I must say, Director, that the members of Parliament continue to find it a struggle. Implementing some projects through RADA, a struggle.
That is true, Chair, but we urge you as legislators and the servants of the people to help us lobby the minister and the different agencies of government to operate in an efficient manner. We have to abide by the rules and the principles of the CDF. So,
Director, this project from the Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth Southeast is appropriate because it is economic enablement and it is fertilizer and other farming inputs for 365 farmers across the constituency. This project is from Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness for St. Andrew West Central. I am not seeing signature. To be this page.
Chairman, a point to note for other projects, and the committee members should look out for it. Not because a proposal is attached, it means that the project is worthy to be approved. There has to be this letter, and please look at it when it is circulating, that a no objection is given from the RADA corporate office. So the parish offices do the proposals, but they have to send them to the RADA head office or corporate office. They review, it's a monitoring mechanism, it's a monitoring and evaluation mechanism that they have in place to ensure whatever the parish office does, it's really compliant with their standard. And then they will attach a no objection letter which states, "Dear Mrs. Rochester, please note that I have reviewed the proposal submitted with regards to the above caption and have no objection to same."
Director, I know that a lot of the projects that we have for farmers is intended to cause significant improvement in their productivity as farmers. We need to make a decision as it relates to very, very small farmers, people who you would want to give 50 chickens, to be able to either, start out or supplement from their situation. And not all of these individuals are already registered. The registration process is taking quite a while. Many of them do not have their IDs. I think we have to run a program of making it very quick, very efficient for small, really small farmers wanting to get on the books to get some assistance to be able to do so. And no, we do not want to be in a position that we are not doing lasting projects. That's the idea behind the CDF, literally finding a way to change lives in a meaningful, long-term way. That's really what development is about, and not necessarily giving persons 50 chickens to be able to eat the 50 chickens. It is really to set them on a business path. So everything we are doing from the CDF is really to foster business. It is not supposed to be for just quick personal use. Director?
Also, Chair, I understand the argument that members of Parliament come with, and I'm not just opposing for opposing's sake, but you have to understand that each entity has a capacity. And when we just buy chickens and give to constituents without the technical expertise. I know it's 50 chicken, but I've recently learned that the chicken coop cannot be too near the road because the horn of the trucks can kill the chicken. So there is a technical aspect to just giving out chickens. And I know you want, for efficiency purposes, to use the SDC, but I caution you against that because it is more than giving out chicken. Remember the vitamins that's needed. You remember... No, on a serious matter, there is a technical side to farming now, that it's not just about giving benefits to persons because they come to your constituency offices. So we have to bear that in mind. I'm not opposing the limit for small farmers, but we should bear in mind that some entity does not have the capacity to treat with farming techniques and technology as they evolve.
Thanks, Director. Some amount of training needs to be done because the idea of perpetual assistance with productivity incentive needs to be a thing of the past. It doesn't make sense that you're doing a business and the intention is that the government must support your business every year. It must be that individuals are being assisted to develop in a way that they can take care of themselves going forward. Did I call out that project? I didn't call it because it wasn't signed. I just wanted you to double check it first. So from Kingston Western, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, $8 million for their education assistance. And that is being implemented through the KCMC. This goes into the education batch. And this goes into sports development batch, just to make sure Hugh Graham, St. Catherine Northwest, his sports development project is, oh, this is not sports development, because I was wondering about the amount. This is education assistance for $5 million for the St. Catherine Northwest Educational Support Program. That is Member of Parliament Hugh Graham. Water distribution for Trelawney Southern, being requested by the Member of Parliament, Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, is budgeted at $2 million, and it is being implemented through the Trelawney Municipal Corporation. I think I'm finished with all projects. Do you have anything else there for me? All right, so we'll do now. not least, reallocation. Yes, Member
I
Robinson?
just remembered, Member Denise Daly had asked me to apologize for her. Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Member Crawford apologized for the absence of Member Daly. All right, so we have a withdrawal for the Clarendon North Central Solar Electrification of the Donald Sangster Community Center. It was approved initially for $2,080,000. After the approval, the unit realized that the proposed project's co-sponsor did not align with the requirements of the CDF. In light of this, they're requesting that the May 20 approval be withdrawn and be replaced with the Clarendon Northern Central Solar Electrification of said Donald Sangster to the tune of $2 million flat. The previous approval is seen here. This project is being implemented through the Clarendon Municipal Corporation for the Member of Parliament, Honorable Robert Morgan, for Clarendon North Central. I think this is our only reallocation. Members, that concludes the projects to be approved by the Constituency Development Fund Committee for today. Do you have something else? Oh, sorry. Remember to sign the letter, everyone. And then I've signed the new project. The new project is approximately the 3rd page. So remember to sign the new project. I can show them here and here. At some later stage, the CDF office will advise us of the possibility for another meeting. Once again, our colleagues need to be paying keen attention because I do believe the next meeting, if had, will be the final meeting for this session before Parliament goes on summer recess. Do we have any other business we would like to discuss at this time? Director, I continue to reach out to the Minister of Finance as it relates to compensation. I've asked the Minister of Finance to review the documentation established in the CDF because for some reason there continues to be a disconnect in terms of the responsibility coming out of the MOF. And because the CDF budget is now under the OPM's budget, the Minister of Finance has a very hands-off approach. So we have to be very careful. I'm going to ask that we set a meeting with the Minister of Finance. Director, I will be happy to be there to support you as chair for the committee because the Constituency Development Fund Office does too much, is under too much pressure for it to be in a no man's land situation. It just cannot continue. We continue to lose the best minds, the most capable project managers, and it puts even us as members of Parliament under stress because many members of Parliament rely on your unit to assist with designing the projects so that they are quickly approved, and not to mention to monitor their implementation. And if you are being called on to continue to support ad hoc additional projects, and I must say you're called on because you're so efficient, you're so capable. I can tell you, those of us here as Member of Parliament, if a special project is being implemented by education, all of us clamor and say, put it through the CDF. We put you under pressure because it's efficiently executed there. And so we have to band together to give the unit the support it needs to be able to function at the level that is required and to have the adequate staffing. Otherwise, you in the CDF office will be working yourself to death.
But what I'm not understanding, Chair, and maybe this came from your discussion, I don't know, maybe you can clarify. Even if we're under the OPM's budget, it is ample time now to review the structure of the CDF based on what the resources that we manage, the new programs that fall under us. So it is more than where our budget is now tabled. It is looking at the program in a fulsome way to say that we would have evolved. Take 2008 to 2025. So much would have happened. We would have grown, we would have evolved. It is now ample time to look at the CDF in an overall picture, not a piecemeal picture to say we belong to the Ministry of Finance or we belong to the Office of the Prime Minister.
Director, we are going to do a little bit of research. The clerk for CDF will do some research. We have already written to the Minister of Finance and we have gotten nowhere. We have actually not even gotten a response. We will remind the Minister of Finance, but we would like to go one step further and see where we can utilize the rules of Parliament to submit to Cabinet, if so even through our House Leader, to Cabinet, the problems we're having in respect of CDF, the structure, the staffing, and compensation for Cabinet's review and consideration. It is for too long, and if we're not careful, persons in all our constituencies rely on the immediacy of the ability of the Member of Parliament's office to very efficiently execute on programs to the benefit of our constituents that sometimes take a much longer time through the respective agencies. If we take seriously the work we are able to do in helping our constituents very quickly and efficiently, we therefore need to take seriously the support that is required by the CDF office. Member Crawford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I wanted to find out, the request from some members of Parliament about the possibility of not paying the CDF officers from our $20 million. Is that forming part of the submission?
It forms a part of the submission. Members, you are asked to just reread the letter from our committee. Not all members may have had an opportunity to read and sign, but it was circulated. So, Committee Clerk, I'm asking you to just recirculate the document that was sent to the Minister of Finance for the benefit of all committee members. And that document is what we are proposing that we send to Cabinet for some attention and pressure to be placed on having the unit properly supported. This last year, I mean, everything Spark was major and it went straight to the CDF office for them to give support. We had education assistance that was going a little bit off and we all said, look, send it to the CDF office. And Jamaica 61. I mean, every single special project, the drought mitigation, every special project that has come to us because of intervening circumstances at the time where the government wants to respond very quickly, what is done, it goes to the CDF office. And we cannot continue to do that without proper and adequate support. So members of the committee are all of one accord. The director and the team have been crying out to us. We are going to now escalate that to Cabinet so that we can get some support. And I believe it is so say all of us. Members, will Director?
The date of the next meeting, if we should have a meeting, is July 8th. I'm proposing July 8th, based on the schedule that was sent out.
So members, meeting schedule was sent out from the CDF office. I'm asking everyone to pencil in their diaries, a reminder for July 8th. Director, I would ask you to please have your unit just send out a note as well to all members of Parliament so that they are appreciative of the fact that that will be the last meeting before we go on break, and there will be no projects approved thereafter. So for members of Parliament who need to have a bill of quantities done by the implementing agency to have their projects approved And as pointed out today, that special no objection letter, if your project is from RADA, have your projects reviewed, meet with your CDF officer, finalize, because the 8th of July, when it comes and passes, we will not convene another meeting. Members, thank you very much for being here today and for your fulsome participation. I now move that a member, so move for adjournment by Davis and seconded by Crawford. Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much, Director. Thank you, Clerk.
In the heart of the Caribbean, where the sun kisses the shores, lies a compelling tale of Jamaica's relentless pursuit of life-sustaining water.